Hey yo guys, so here it is, my crazy, insane Arcade1up find. The backstory on this cabinet is unlike anything I've ever heard. I bought this cabinet off Craigslist, off a guy on Craigslist, for $5. I paid $5 cash for this. And there's a reason for that. So the listing on Craigslist, because I'm a deal hunter, I scour Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist all the time. And so I saw this thing listed. I thought it was fake, of course. So I hit the kid up. He said that he doesn't know if it works. He found it on the side of the road in front of somebody's house. They had thrown it out for trash. There was no power cable attached to it, but he grabbed it. It was just an empty shell, basically. And he was charging $5 for it. And I figured, you know what? I mean, whether it works or not, for $5, I mean, how could you pass that up? So I drove, it was like 45 minutes away, picked it up, brought it home. I mean, the thing was trashed, and I'll show you everything I had to do to it to get it back up and running. I mean, it looked like it was thrown out of a truck or rolled down the stairs or something like that. It was beat to hell. But anyways, so I got on Amazon, found an aftermarket power cable, plugged the thing in, and sure as hell it worked. As you can see, it's on now. It's the original PCB, the original screen, original controls, and this cabinet here does have a little bit of significance to me because this is the 5th cabinet that I owned in my collection, which is now up to like 20. And because of this cabinet, it forced me to expand to my current game room. Now, I'm standing in my basement right now, which is where the 4 cabinets that I owned, TMNT, Star Wars, the original Mortal Kombat, and Outrun, they were all sitting down in here. Adding a 5th cabinet to it, I just was unable to, it just wouldn't have fit. You know, I didn't want to jam it in. I didn't want to make my basement look crowded and look kind of ridiculous. So that's where I ended up deciding, taking half of my 2-car garage, sectioning it off, and turning it into my game room. Because the garage wasn't being used for anything anyways. It was just being used for storage. My truck is far too big to fit into my garage, and my wife has a very large SUV, which was also unable to fit. This house is from the 80s, the garages weren't that big, our vehicles just wouldn't fit. So it was just collecting junk. So I decided to turn half of the garage into a game room. There you go. I was able to fit this and then some. I had all the space I could possibly want. So that's the story behind this thing. And when I got it, like I said, it was in pretty beat up condition. All the back supports were completely gone. They were just broken or non-existent. The supports on the bottom were rotten out. So I reinforced it with wood, which I'll show. It had no back panel on it. It was all scratched up. The deck was completely scratched. And the worst thing is, I took 2 pictures, I think, which I'll show right now. I should have shown pictures of the condition that this thing was in, because I just figured, what the heck? I wasn't really making content at that time. So I was like, I'll just restore this thing for $5, put a few bucks into it, and have myself a Pac-Man. But, like I said, it was time to move on. I've always wanted to upgrade to a Pac-Man, a more current edition of Pac-Man, just because this thing only has 2 games on it. The screen is one of them old TN monitors. I mean, it's just, the controls are very weak and floppy. Even the buttons they're not the same quality. And I just wanted an upgrade. Then you get a newer Pac-Man, you get 14 games with it. You know, all the Dig Dug games, the Galaga games, all the other Pac-Man games. And for Black Friday, yeah, $100 off, free shipping. I decided to pull the trigger. Now the question is, what am I going to do with this thing? Am I going to try to sell it? I mean, I kind of have a little bit of a sentimental attachment to it. And honestly, what's anybody going to pay for this thing? Now, I did add a light-up marquee to it, which didn't have. I repainted the entire deck by hand. I mean, I'm not an artist at all, but I mean, we'll get a little bit of a closer look at this thing. And I added a deck protector to it, so I didn't want it scratched up again. I tried to repair the side, because the side art, and you'll be able to see, it's torn, and the cabinet looks like it's been beat on in places. And so I tried to repair that as best as I could. I didn't want to reskin it. I bought a riser for it. I bought riser graphics for it. So really, if you do all the math, I probably ended up spending $200 on this thing, which at the time is still cheaper than buying a new one. But I figured now was as good as time as any. And like I said, am I going to be able to sell this? I don't know. If I do, what am I going to get for it? 50 bucks, maybe 100 if I'm lucky. Or I thought about giving it to a family member who really likes Pac-Man. That way I can kind of, it'll still stay in the family and I'll still be able to see it. Or I thought maybe I keep it and turn it into something else, even though, like I said, the cabinet itself is kind of beat up. So I don't know yet. One of those three things. I'm either going to try to sell it, give it away to a family member, or save it and convert it into something totally different. But I kind of feel like I could find a better cabinet in better condition for fairly cheap that I could also modify. Because I would also have to modify the deck because this thing only has obviously one joystick and only 2 buttons on it. That's my crazy story. And we'll look at the cabinet real quick and just show you what all I had to do to it to make it function. All right, so like I said, the deck was really scratched. I mean, I don't know if you can see it in the picture at all, but as a lot of these things did, they were painted, you know, and they didn't have the clear deck protector on it. So you're playing it, you know, this thing is dragging all over it, and your fingernails are hitting it, and your hands are rubbing against it. I mean, it was just completely worn away. But yeah, I went through. I mean, it was scratched not only here and around the joystick, but the buttons were totally scratched up. It was even scratched up over here. I mean, you can almost kind of see the little bit of blue. Like I went through the blue, the red. I repainted like all this. You can. I know it's hard to see on camera, but you can kind of see it when the light reflects off of it. Just considering this thing was scratched to hell, and a lot of smudges are now on the deck protector. But I wanted to make it look nice, and luckily in my game room, it's very dark, and I have blue light strung in there, which kind of gives almost like a black light vibe to it. So really, it hides imperfections. And as you can see here, like just the skin of it is peeling off. Like I said, it was beat pretty bad. I don't know what the hell happened there. I said it looked like somebody must have just took it outside and threw it. But even or it was all scratched. I tried to paint it red and yellow. Tried to smush in that a little bit more to make it not so beat up. But the back, I mean, got a chunk missing from there. This is just loose. The back panel, as I said, was completely gone. But here's a piece of wood I had to add to it because that back support was gone. This back support was gone. Added a piece of wood to it with new screws. And underneath even, the bottom supports were gone. In the front, the support that goes across here and the support that goes across the back was completely... One of them was there and the other one was crushed in. So this cabinet was not very structurally sound. But I mean, adding real wood to it, I mean, it made this thing solid as a rock. Of course, had to add my own screws because they were gone. This side of the cabinet doesn't look too bad. But it was in pretty sad shape. Like I said, there was no power cord with it. So when I paid $5 for it, I had no idea what I was getting into. You know, even the deck protector in the deck, I think I replaced a few of these screws, maybe 2 of them. And because one of them was completely stripped out, so I had to run a longer wood screw in there. You know, the front wasn't too bad, a little bit of nicks and scrapes. But like I said, what I added to it after repainting the whole thing and trying to build it back up, I did add the deck protector. Added the light up marquee, which I had bought from Arcade1up. Because, as you know, the Gen 1 cabinets didn't have light up marquees, they had the wood ones, which just turns on and off by a button here. It doesn't turn on automatically, but if you leave it in the on position and you plug the cabinet in, it will turn on. And I did buy a riser for it and did buy front graphics for the riser. I didn't get any side graphics for it, but I mean, that was pretty much it. That's the craziest Arcade1up story that I have for any of my arcade machines. To find it literally for $5, thought it was a joke. Even the cabinet alone, like I said, it was worth $5 just to see if it even worked. You know, I almost felt guilty taking it off the guy. Like, he should have at least... I feel like he should have at least charged me 20 or 40 bucks for it. But, yeah, here it is. I just wanted to share that story. But, yeah, I did upgrade to the Pac-Man Deluxe. And this thing is either going to be transformed into something else, and is going to be sold off or given away. And I will say this, the only thing that I like about this, and I know people don't like the risers, I don't like the look of the riser, but the stability is, compared to a deluxe, this thing is so much more stable because you got all that weight on the bottom. That's the one thing that is lacking from the deluxe cabinets. They are top heavy. The bottom of those cabinets, as everybody knows, are weightless. There's nothing to them. And when you're in there and you're getting into a game, I mean, you're shaking the hell out of that. That cabinet just wobbles back and forth. This thing here, I mean, it is solid. Like I said, you got 30 pounds of riser down there that keeps this thing solid. And so I'm just struggling to try to find a way on my deluxes without putting weight in the bottom of the thing. I'm trying to keep it stable, because I'm not in a position where I want to anchor it to the wall. I think that's kind of, I don't know if anybody uses those anchor kits, but that's the one thing I'm going to miss about this, is just the fact that it's built like a brick, you know what. But anyways, it was time to upgrade. I did it. I'm sad to see this thing go because it has such a crazy backstory to it. It was time. So everybody, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.